Hi there, it's Timmy Joe, and I make videos about computers on the internet. And joining me today, SonOfATech, YouTuber guy extraordinaire, who we've decided to join forces, much like Voltron, and talk about everyone's favorite subject, AMD, and maybe a video card or something. How are you doing today?
Why is AMD your favorite subject? Are you an AMD fanboy?
Oh, please. You notice, man, they
off to the right.
Yeah, exactly. They sure come out in the comments section and just like attack. They very much like to stand by their company.
I just started attacking back, like a cat.
Yeah.
But, no, so yeah, I make videos on the internet, and I guess we're here to talk about Vega or RX Vega.
Yeah.
So I only really have experience with Vega Founders Edition. That's about it. I built a PC just for it, so I felt.
Did you say that wrong on purpose?
Good about. Did I build it just for it?
No, you said Founders Edition.
Oh, Founders, yeah, Frontiers Edition.
I've only said that 100 times and been called out in videos. Oh man.
Frontier, Founders, either way, it's a discovery. So
yeah. It's really hard to get that straight, and they do that on purpose. Much like all of their.
I think AMD has been doing a lot of naming on purpose lately. X399, yeah, okay,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, we both had a Vega card. We're fortunate enough. Have you given yours back yet?
No, I'm not going to give it back.
Oh.
I think I own it now.
I almost had, had to keep it, actually. There was there was some restocking fee, we'll say, and there was some question on whether or not we were going to keep it. But it's gone. It's been returned.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't know. I'm at least keeping it for a while. So you know that the Frontier Edition is going to get a big update with the release of RX, right? They're releasing all of the features that are on RX.
Yeah. No.
Edition.
Many people have let me know in the comments that that's coming.
my Frontier Edition build would look pretty amiss with a silver and red card.
Yes. Wow. I think I liked the look of that card. And like you were saying, it kind of grew on you with your build. So he made a really awesome water-cooled build at a LAN kind of live. Was that? Or you had most of the pieces done?
Sort of. I had most of it done. Obviously, I had all the painting done. I did all the water cooling and cable management, block, all that stuff. The motherboard was mounted, but I did have to take it off to run some cables and et cetera, so it came out. I think it came out really good though for doing it. I only spilled water once.
No.
So
cool. And
dyed yellow water all over the LAN table.
How did everyone?
It was my LAN table.
Yeah. How did everyone like that at the LAN? I'm sure you were the only one.
That built something out there?
No,
or that spilled water.
That used a Frontier Edition in their build.
Oh, yeah, I was. Everybody else had NVIDIA cards. Well, in the mod competition.
Yeah.
So.
And you didn't win?
I got third.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
I'm going to be in CPU Magazine in like 2 months.
Oh.
2 months? Yeah, I'm going to be in the CPU Magazine for third place.
Very, very cool.
I'm pretty stoked on that.
How many people are at that LAN?
Yeah. I think there were less than 100. I'd say like 80 or something like that. And then there were probably like 10 people in the mod competition. Okay. So not like a QuakeCon difficulty of winning a mod competition or anything.
Yeah, yeah. You ever see my Ryzen build?
I think I have.
That weird aluminum case that was all CNC that I did the... It's behind me here. I could lift it up, but it's very, very heavy.
Maybe I don't recall, because
Yeah.
I think I've seen the most recent builds you've done, but mainly
Oh, because
I don't know when I started.
we
watching you.
just kind of
maybe,
met
like,
with this with the Vega cards pretty much. So we're this is the first
Yeah.
time we're ever Skype calling, by the way, guys. So
yeah,
yeah,
we're in a very new relationship. That's why it's awkward right
yeah,
now.
yeah. I'm wondering if he's gonna pay for dinner or.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. I did just buy $1,000 GPU, so
Yeah.
you know,
Very cool.
stiffy on
Well,
the build.
very cool. What's your daily driver PC right now?
Okay, so I have an ASRock Taichi X99 with the 6800K
Okay.
and a Titan X Pascal with 32 gigs of Dominator Platinum memory and an OCZ RD400 NVMe.
Ah, there you go. I'm Ryzen all the way, so you can call me a fanboy. But
I had the 1800X. I made probably one of the most disliked videos on the internet, where I said I'm done with 1800X and going back to X99 for now.
And what was your reasoning for that?
None of my PCIe expansion cards except for graphics cards worked on it, and the memory compatibility was pretty awful for me at the time, which it wasn't really a reason. I did finally buy memory that worked with it, but
Yeah.
mainly none of my capture cards worked.
Nah.
And I like my live gamer, all that stuff didn't work. So anytime I was trying to capture from my test bench for benchmarking, I couldn't do a lossless capture. And so I was like, and I was just getting frustrated with it because it was having some reboot issues, and the coil whine and the chipset was kind of bad because I did go with the BioStar motherboard, so that's bad on me, whatever. But
BioStar, so you must have made that pretty late in the game then.
No, I bought that. I bought everything day one. I pre-ordered day one, but they sold out of pretty much every motherboard within the first couple of hours, except for the BioStar.
Yeah, no, I ordered all my stuff a week into it, and I waited 2 weeks for a motherboard. Like they sold me one on Amazon, and it came from NCIX. Like Amazon bought it, or like whatever, they're a vendor through it, and it must have just been on a boat and they were selling it. And I wouldn't have went that way because it took forever to get here. But I certainly
I got into 1800X really quick. Because I pre-ordered it and that board came in right at the same time, so I got it within like a few days of release, which was cool. And I still have I think I'm number 4 in Cinebench for AIO.
Oh, cool.
On hardware pots. So
what's your score?
It was 1870.
Holy shit! Okay, you know what? Good motherboard and an 1800X will do that. So my claim to fame with Ryzen was I built my system and I put it in a freezer, and I was able to overclock to 4.1 gigahertz, and I got an 1808 on a B350 motherboard. With a clean install of Windows, and I've since put a couple of computers in this deep freezer just to see how, it'll work out.
Yeah, I saw that video. That was cool. That was really neat. But yeah, so I figured out a lot of those things. Like I figured out that there were issues with the Ryzen Master causing lower scores, etc.
Yeah.
And so very early on, I was posting all that stuff, and that was fun.
The Asus AI suite was doing that to me, where there was a BIOS update, and when I did that BIOS update, it did something to the AI suite, and I wasn't even using it for overclocking or anything, but when that BIOS update happened, it clicked something on in AI suite, and all I was using it for was to control fans and the fucking LED on the ring. And it took me forever, like a week, to figure out that it was that just being installed on my computer that was messing my overclock up. So I hear that. But
so your Cinebench score, did you close Ryzen Master when you ran your Cinebench score?
Yeah, I had like every process closed.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, because you might be getting a higher score.
No.
I saw like almost 100-point difference a couple times with just Ryzen Master closed.
Yeah. Oh, even closing hardware monitor can do it. But I think I've even burnt my chip out a bit doing stupid shit like that, because I can't. Right now I'm running a pretty good AIO, and I have it pretty much at 4 gigahertz stable all the time. So I'm pretty happy with that, but it took that AIO for sure to get it anywhere near 4, because it's just, yeah, it's finicky as all hell near the bleeding edge of performance. And
Yeah,
summertime
really
certainly isn't helping out.
The Aegis update though was badass.
Yeah.
So this is my second dive into Ryzen, and I have the 1500X over there. And I got some 3200 megahertz memory. Oh, and my Ryzen 3 is probably sitting at my door right now.
Oh, there you go. I have a 1500X right here. I plan on playing with this week.
Okay, so I got mine to 4 gigahertz, and it scored 910 Cinebench with 3200 megahertz memory. But it went, if you get the right memory on the AMD website, the 3200 megahertz, it just applies right away now. So
yeah.
I
initially bought the Corsair Vengeance that everyone got with their press kits, and that was a bad idea. It didn't work past 20 or 2400 until
2666.
No, it didn't even make it to there on the Asus motherboard until like way later on in BIOS updates. And right now I have 32 gigs of ballistics that they sent me, and it runs a 2066. It's rated for that, and I'm fine with that because it's 32 gigs of RAM, of course. But I have that stupid, really tall GEAL memory that you need like 20 wires to run RGB out of, and that stuff, even though it's rated for 2666, it'll go to 3200, which is pretty awesome. But I find that
that's cool.
For 4K video editing, I'd much rather have 32 gigs of RAM running. So we're off topic here. Let's try. We could just talk shop forever, I'm sure. I wanted to talk Founders Edition, or fucking Frontier Edition. Excuse my language. Let me get your take on it. Like, I watched, he had a really good video where he basically has a conversation with it, and that's where I was hooked on his videos. He's a swirly bastard, this card.
Start everything off as we go ahead and check out how you play 4K games.
Well, I wasn't made for gaming. My mom Lisa said that I didn't have to do any gaming.
He definitely has an attitude.
I think I had to do it because I was really grumpy with the card, because there's that whole thing where it was like, wait for Vega, wait for Vega, wait for Vega, and I was like, I've been waiting for you forever, baby. And I got him, and he was just a little bastard. He didn't want to do anything. He doesn't want to overclock. He doesn't want to run games. He doesn't want to do OpenCL like playback. And I was just like, I'm so grumpy with you, but how am I going to do a review for you but not come across as a complete jerk reviewing a Vega card? You know, like, how am I not going to come across as an NVIDIA fanboy at this point?
Yeah. How was the dislike ratio on that one?
It wasn't bad. Yeah. It was good.
You went about it the right way.
Yeah, I did. And I think that the general consensus is the same with that card. I think that it's one of those things where it's just out of place, and if you were expecting it to, like, it wasn't what people were expecting, and it was a disappointment all around, I think, for almost everybody. I think that's the general consensus, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some super huge fan out there of Vega.
Yeah, there are a few of those for sure, but none of them, anyone with any common sense knows that this card, like the way they were marketing it, I was just like, okay, well, it's something different. And you were right. It's early adopters tax for RX Vega, and so they could have it in the hands of some people to get some bug reports and stuff before it came out. Because, like, did you run any sort of rendering tests on it or Blender? What's your opinion there?
I ran some render tests just through Premiere. I didn't run Blender. I ran GP, what is it? Dang it. Somebody even told GUI or what? GPU PI, the friggin' GPU Pi.
There you go.
That's how you say it.
Yeah.
And Keith from WCCF Tech told me that one time, and then I was like, I still can't remember. But yeah, GPU Pi, like pi, like the pi symbol.
Yeah.
I did run that, and it's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Very inconsistent.
Did it do as good as 1080 in your opinion, or because they pinned this against a Titan in that PC World video, and it's like it's not. There's no way, and they might eventually if they take some of the architectural differences and they work them into some pre-existing software, because there's a lot of memory on it, and something's got to be wrong for it to have 16 gigs of high bandwidth memory and not be blowing, benchmarks out of the water.
There's not enough cores.
Yeah.
There's not enough
stream processors. Yeah.
Yeah, stream processors too. That's really where they're weak.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, they're in software implementation. I mean, obviously the software implementation right now is very new, very young.
And there'll be a driver update that, eventually that gives it that extra 15% or whatever. But
in Founders Edition, Frontiers Edition or whatever, the Frontier Edition is going to be getting the RX Vega BIOS or firmware updates that unlock a few different features. They're going to improve performance. And it does look like it scared NVIDIA enough to release that BIOS today to improve their workflow for rendering and such by like 15 to 30% for Titan XP cards.
So they just had that sitting in the just waiting for.
Yeah. So I didn't download it because we had this show, and I was like, I better not download it and then try to install a driver before we do this. But I'm going to install the beta driver after this and do some testing comparison for renders in Adobe and such and see what happens. But apparently it's a 15 to 30% bump in most of those types of rendering applications.
Wow, that's awesome. See, my experience with it was because I have a 1080. That's the best card I have, and it did beat the 1080 in Premiere rendering and in a Blender, but by like this much. And if I ran it again or ran it while it was hot, it wouldn't have beat it. So, and then I had everything at stock clocks for that stuff too. So you can always overclock a 1080, to get another 15% performance out of it, and you cannot, especially with that blower cooler. You can undervolt and maybe maintain close to 1600 megahertz.
Did you notice this? I was going to ask you this because I forgot to mention it in my review. I noticed that once it hits thermal throttle and starts throttling, it doesn't come back up from 1400.
No, it's
like ever. You have to kill the process.
Yeah.
To get it to come back up from 1400.
Yeah, or I think maybe around 1450 is what I saw. But yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, I think it's 1440, but once it throttles, and for me, it starts at stock. It starts throttling at 81C.
Yeah.
And as soon as it would hit 81, it would downclock to 1440, and it wouldn't come back out of it.
And that's a low temperature to throttle at. Especially if you're used to NVIDIA cards, you can definitely go to like 90 and still be, hovering around your max performance with an NVIDIA card. At least that's what I've found. But
well, even with a Polaris card, you can run pretty hot. It's weird, man. And I don't know if it's intentionally I don't know if that firmware is intentionally holding it back for RX Vega. I mean, have you seen any of the official benchmarks yet? Because I haven't really seen much.
There hasn't been. I'm sure there's an embargo on it still. So I think that the only people that actually, I'm sure people have them by now because it's a week away and it'll be on shelves. So I'm sure reviews will start popping up soon for RX, but I don't know. It's not with the power. I also had a power issue where on a 650 watt power supply, I couldn't. I had to switch to a bigger power supply. It was cutting out. I don't know if it's a gold rated power supply. I don't know if it was just junk or what, but I was getting cold crashes where I had to shut my power supply off and wait a few seconds and shut my
I
power
don't
supply
think
back on.
I don't think 650 is enough
Yeah.
because theoretical max is 375. That's theoretical max. By that I mean the PCI rail is 75, and each 8-pin is the additional 150. So you're talking about a total theoretical power draw of up to 375 watts. And then you're also talking about a clock speed that looks like it's pushed further than any other Vega card that's coming out. It's 1600 megahertz when on the boost, which is what, 25 over that of the top card that's going to be released for RX Vega
On air, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know, I'm thinking it probably is pushing close. I know it's definitely over 300, and then.
So they're talking about FreeSync monitors, and pairing that with RX is going to be less money, but then throw in a power supply, because people have started to get used to not having to have bigger power supplies, and they get cheap out on them. And now you're going to have to definitely buy a new power supply if you have a 550 watt, you know, Corsair Anger rig before you buy RX Vega. Like, that's interesting to me.
Isn't the top of the line too still? I thought they were I thought it was a typo at first, but 400 watts.
Yeah, that's the water cooled version, something like that. 375, I think.
And then they said like recommended power supply of 1,000 watts. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? Huh? What happened, guys? I'm so confused.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a 1080, it needs one power connector, and it's pretty much run on anything. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with that. Like, I certainly hope, like, another thing I was going to bring up was, do you think that there's some extra version or some headroom or something that to where in a couple of months there's going to be a revamped, like, Vega TI, RX Vega, not TI obviously, but some sort of like a, I don't know, with extra stream processors or something. Like, to me, that seems like they don't even have time to think that far ahead, and we won't be seeing any updates for a while.
To me, I don't think that will happen. I think that this is a placeholder until they can bump to the next architecture. I think they knew they were dead in the water when Pascal came out. I think this is just to kind of give the fans something to hold on to that is competitive, but at this point, like, really, if you already have a 1080, and most people do because it's been out for like 6 months already, nobody's going to upgrade to Vega. That's not really a thing. So unless you're already like hardcore into the AMD ecosystem, I don't see a reason to buy it. Now, there's a completely different market, and that's where AMD can really aim and focus towards for like price to performance, which they already went in for that market, so they can get rid of these cards no problem.
Oh yeah,
and
people will buy these cards for sure. Like, it's funny because I'll say something in my videos that completely proves that this is at a certain spot and a lot of things don't make sense, and I'll still get that commenter that says, you know, when it comes out, you're going to eat your words, you're going to eat your boot because it's going to be faster than the 1080 or this and that. And it's like, okay, let's say the best case scenario, some amazing driver comes out and it actually is faster than a 1080. I would still rather have a 1080 in my system because of the power issues. It's already been out for a year, you know, and it's a proven technology, and they have another card and another card that are better than it. So it's like I want to be on AMD's side so bad, but this is such a weird launch.
You can be with Ryzen, and Ryzen's matured enough. So you got X370, which is the chipset, like I said, with the Aegis update, all that stuff. Like, it is matured to the point of being amazing and like bang for the buck. It's king. But as a consumer and speaking to consumers, we have to sit back and be honest about the products. And if we're being honest about Vega, it doesn't look like it's going to be the GPU that we needed for the market right now. It's just not.
Yeah, I really wish it was too. And I made like at least 3 videos with, you know, leaks and news where I myself proclaimed Vega's going to be the answer. And, you know, it's such a disappointment, but they'll live on to, at least they're not bulldozering right now. At least they didn't bring out Ryzen and it's some sort of failure. It's going to do so well. And the foibles that Intel's brought up with their new platform, and they're still putting terrible compound between the heat spreader, the IHS or whatever, and like the heat issues. Yeah, and like they've got a solid product. They're going to bring Threadripper out. It's going to kill, and you know, it's actually accessible to a guy like me that does video rendering and stuff like that. To where, you know, you looked at guys like Paul's Hardware or Linus Tech Tips, and they're reviewing these 10-core CPUs from Intel, and it was just like a pipe dream that anyone could get a hold of stuff like that. And now it's totally possible.
Spend $2,000 or something like that to get it. And I mean, that being said, Threadripper is expensive.
Oh yeah,
it's not cheap.
I actually was looking at the pre-order today and was like, because I'm in Canada, it's that much more expensive. And then you start looking at the motherboards they have available, and just like 400 Canadian is like the cheapest one you can get on pre-order right now. And then I was like, well, just for fun, let me see if I was to get an X299, what kind of motherboard. You can get a $200 motherboard on X299 right now. So
because they've been out a little bit longer, I think. The X399 will have boards at that price point after a couple months. I don't see that being a problem. I mean, you saw what happened to X like 370, B350. Those boards dropped in price drastically. You can get a B350 board for like $70 now.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, I have one. I have that ASRock. AB350 Prime, and it's awesome. It's so good from a motherboard. It's missing a few things, but like the power delivery on it still can get to 4 gigahertz. And you know, what are you giving up over a more expensive board? A few, you know, the opportunity for SLI and maybe RGB on the motherboard or something. So it's
the X370 already doesn't make that much sense anyways, because the lanes are limited on Ryzen, or I guess X370 and below, right? But X399, I mean, really the big killer there is going to be the PCIe lanes, the quad channel memory support. I mean, ECC support at some point. I think it's even releasing with ECC support. I mean, those things, like being able to do like RAID 0 with NVMe drives while still being able to run multi GPUs for rendering, and then having all like the availability for all that horsepower. The 1900X makes much more sense to me than the 1800X. Just a ton more sense to me, because at 8 cores and like 16 threads, I feel like you're being capped off by the I/O on X370 and below. I think you need the I/O of X399, and that was my argument for the 7820X, I believe it was, because people were like, "Well, the 1800X is just as powerful," you know. But I was like, "Well, why is that chip more expensive?" I was like, "Well, you got to understand it supports more lanes, et cetera, et cetera." But the 1900X is just going to slaughter the 7820X.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm really glad they brought that out. That makes so much more sense than a Core i5 or whatever Kaby Lake X chip. Like, what is that doing on that platform? It just doesn't even make sense.
But I guess technically the 7740X is the fastest gaming processor, though.
Yeah, that's what.
Isn't it technically? Yeah. So see, I was thinking about doing that for my test bench next, because I got to rebuild my test bench right now.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to get the 7740X just because I like to do the benchmarks of the games or whatever, and I like to have no bottleneck. It is technically the fastest gaming CPU. So
yeah, no, I have a friend that just did a whole 7700K build with water cooling, and he delated it and everything, and just the numbers he sends me, it's like there is a reason to still go Intel, and it's that high frequency. Like well, I had the 7700K up until Ryzen 1800X, and I was running the 7700K, and I delated it. I have some delay videos. I have one where I failed too on a 3770K. So oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
We won't talk about that. I'll hide that one.
There you go. Okay, well, I guess pretty much went over everything. As far as Threadripper goes, like it's just like we said, it's all about the 1900X. I think that is definitely a very good point. I don't not very many consumer applications are going to benefit from 16 cores. It'll be cool to run Cinebench. It'll be cool to have one, but to have the capabilities of the 1800X, like you were saying, with all those PCIe lanes, and then you have Intel doing weird things where you need keys to do RAID and whatever. It's an exciting time to be a PC enthusiast, that is for sure. And this will only pave the way for the next couple of processors to have so much more for cheaper. It's awesome.
Threadripper is where it's at.
Yeah, Threadripper's where it's at for sure. So yeah, I guess that would be a lot of stuff we went over today. So pretty much we're on the same page. Vega's sad, but it'll fill a space. It's a placeholder, and Threadripper rocks.
Yeah. But it is, I will say this, Vega is still at a competitive price point, and if you were buying right now, it would be a very real decision between Vega and Pascal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, say that so that you don't get in trouble. No, I agree with that, especially if you can buy them. That's what will save that, is if there's
it'll be easier to buy Vega than it was to buy like Polaris. Or Fury. Well, that's because HBM2 is not very good, and if you look at the power consumption, you would be an idiot as a miner to buy Vega.
Yeah, exactly. And
so, I mean, you'd waste so much money on power alone just trying to mine with Vega. So.
And you've been dabbling in the mining, right?
Yeah, I have my mining rig sitting right over here, but don't tell anyone. They don't like it.
Oh. Okay.
I'm a crypto pirate, but I'm a sneaky one that plays video games on the weekends. So.
There you go. All right, well, it was very nice talking to you. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. This is SonOfATech. He has a YouTube channel that will obviously be linked below. I would definitely recommend, if you like my videos, to go check his stuff out, because it's like a certain level of competency and quality that I think is lacking in some of the other YouTube channels, and it's nice to talk to someone that knows what they're talking about. We'll say that. So yeah, anything you want to plug? You have any? You have anything coming out?
No, I don't. Just come check out my Vega Frontier Edition build.
Yeah,
AKA the Founders Edition build that I mentioned earlier, but it's the same thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll be in the CPU mag, so go pick up a CPU mag and then come tweet at me and be like, "I found you," and take a picture, because that'll be cool.
Yeah, no, that'll be very, very,
I don't know.
cool.
That just sounds neat to me.
Yeah.
So
you'll have to check out my my weird Ryzen case. I was hoping that would get some attention that way, but I think it looks like a computer from 2006. So a lot of haters, and I posted it on Reddit and got a super thumbs down. So I never
super thumbs down.
Yeah,
I will definitely have to check it out. I like those videos.
Yeah. But yeah, and check out his Vega review or conversation, because that is some hilarious stuff. Nice talking to you, buddy.
Glad you enjoyed it. You too. Thanks for hanging out.
All right. Talk to you later.